that the number of Americans who believe our country is on the right track now exceeds those who think it's heading in the wrong direction for the first time in 20 years. Can you believe that? 20 years. And this is really a seismic 27-point swing from just before the election. Nobody's ever seen anything like that one, yes, sir. I want to tell you, that's a big one. The best and most successful business leaders on earth are now racing to invest in the United States. Since November, DOGE has announced plans to invest $40 billion in the U.S., creating at least 10,000 jobs. SoftBank has announced investments of between $100 and $200 billion, creating at least 100,000 American jobs. Oracle and OpenAI and SoftBank are now collectively committing $500 billion to keep the United States on the cutting edge of artificial intelligence, and so many more. I mean, so many companies that want to come to the White House and have a little news conference all the time. I said, why don't you just announce it? But they want to come, and I'll do that. I don't mind doing that. I say anytime they want to go 10 billion or more, I'm there. 10 billion or more. But on his recent visit to the White House, the Prime Minister of Japan announced he anticipates Japanese investment in the United States of well over $1 trillion, and we're working on an Alaska pipeline already, which is the closest point to Asia. And as you know, the ANWR, which we've started, Ronald Reagan couldn't get it approved. Nobody could get it approved for so many years. Couldn't get it approved. I got it approved. Actually, I got it approved twice. I got it approved, and Biden ended it. That was a shocker, but we just got it approved again. And we're going to be, it's probably the largest deposit maybe anywhere in the world, just by itself. It's, they say, of similar size to Saudi Arabia, so we hope that's correct. But all of this is only happening because of the world-changing results of the 2024 election. We won the House, we won the Senate, the White House, and the Electoral College, and the popular vote in a landslide. We also won all 7 swing states, and all 50 states shifted in the Republican direction for the first time ever. So every state, every single state of the 50 states shifted Republican. It's never happened before. Either way, it's never happened. And 85% of counties voted for Trump. Think of that. So you have 2,600 counties versus 525. 2,600. Think of that. That's why when you look at the election map after it was all done, the certified map, the whole thing was red. 2,600 versus 500. It's a big difference. Nobody's seen anything like it, actually. So as a result of this very historic victory, investors from all over the planet once again have confidence in America's future and respect for America's leaders. And it's about time we get a little respect. The last administration was the worst and most incompetent in the history of our country, but we are moving quickly to fix every single disaster Joe Biden created and make America stronger and more prosperous than ever before. Our first and most urgent mission is to remove the criminals that Biden allowed into our country with the ridiculous and very dangerous open borders policy. They came from all over the world. They came from prisons and jails. They came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They were gang members. They were drug lords. They came from all over, and they were allowed to come into our country. And we're getting them out in record levels, just like they came in record levels. I want to thank Tom Holman and Christine, who was...
Oh my God, it's so fucking boring. He never shuts the fuck up about the same shit. Never anything new here. Holy moly. I guess it's my idiotic expectation that he's going to talk about something different, but...
is taking them back. They're sending their criminals to us, and they're all taking them back. We had a little problem with a couple of them that ended very quickly. And because some said, we don't really want MS-13 back in our country. But I said, congratulations, you're taking them back. And they take them back. And by the way, Europe and other places ought to start also doing that, they better start looking at immigration because it's really hurting Europe very, very badly. And they better get smart and they better get tough before it's too late. We're also working to end the highest inflation in our country's history, all caused because they played with our energy policy and wasted money on the Green New Scam and other things such as that. And they wasted monies at never seen before levels. If Joe Biden had simply held federal spending at the pre-pandemic levels we had in 2019, we would.
You should watch the latest video game donkey video. He pretty much leaves a scathing comment on you without naming you directly. Says Hasan's view count bot. I doubt it.
Tariff income, which is really, it's already turned out to be amazing, actually. It's really meant more for bringing countries and companies into
It's the best language.
It's
the best word in the world.
The numbers are
in the English language.
Staggering. Because we're the big piggy bank that everybody wants to be. And they can play games and they can say, well, there'll be retribution and, equal this and that. But they can't be equal. But we want to keep it so that we're the big piggy bank. And if we had years like we did the last 4 years, that wouldn't have lasted too long. So we're not promising it. But, all of these things could happen. We hope to balance our budget. So I don't want to promise it because if I do and we come about $10 short, the fake news media back there would say, we have breaking news. He did not make it. He did not make it. But we'll get it done very soon. It might not be this year, but it could be this year. Actually, we have a chance at getting it even this year, which people would be shocked at because they were talking about 10 years, 15 years, 20 years from now. When I took office last month, we inherited the consequences of inflation. That was more than 4 times what it was when I left 4 years ago. Think of that. I left, it was at 1.4%. And the annual government spending over $1.5 trillion more than projected in 2020 alone. $1.5 trillion. But under the Trump administration, all of that is changing faster and more dramatically than anyone ever thought possible. They didn't think it was possible to do what we've done in just a very short period of time. We've accomplished more in 4 weeks than most administrations accomplish in 4 years. On my first day in office, I imposed an immediate federal hiring freeze, a federal regulation freeze, and a foreign aid freeze. I signed an order creating the Department of Government Efficiency and put a man named Elon Musk in charge. Thank you, Elon, for doing it. Thank you very much. And he's doing a great job. I wish you could have seen him last night. It's really, he's a very committed person. He's a very serious person. And he's a very high IQ people. I like high IQ people. Not all have to be, but, it'd be nice to have some people up there that he's a seriously high IQ individual. Now, he's got his faults also, I will tell you that. But not too many of them, which is now really waging war on government waste, fraud, and abuse. And they're curbing inflation and saving taxpayers billions and billions of dollars every single day. And there's even under consideration a new concept where we give 20% of the DOGE savings to American citizens and 20% goes to paying down debt because the numbers are incredible, Elon. So many billions of dollars, billions, hundreds of billions, and we're thinking about giving 20% back to the American citizens and 20% down to pay back debt and pay down debt, which is, if you look at value, if it were a real estate balance sheet, the debt is tiny, but we still want to pay it down. Doesn't matter. We don't look at it as a piece of real estate. It's America. We're going to get it down through intelligence, hard work, and as Elon said, a word called caring. You have to care. By doing this, Americans will tell us where there's waste. They'll be reporting it themselves. They participate in the process of saving money. So many of the men and women in this room, as an example, they pay tremendous amounts of taxes. And here are just a few examples of where your money was going before I came along. These are just some of the, just taken at random. Oh, there are much worse examples than this. I was just looking at them before the speech, and I can tell you they were much worse. And there are some that are horrible, but I don't want to really say them because they're very, very embarrassing.
Do you reckon he survives this term? Evil never dies. Evil never dies. Dick Cheney is still alive. Evil never dies. Trump is talking about this. Will never happen, of course. President Trump and Elon Musk proposed 5,000 DOGE dividend checks to all Americans with a possible $1 trillion in savings. Oh my God, this is literally like a TikTok meme. We're operating on TikTok memes. President Donald Trump is going to give every American $5,000 after they cut $1 trillion in spending. If you believe this, if you believe that this is going to happen, you have to be the dumbest person on the fucking planet. Okay? Like straight up. Especially, like every part of this is ridiculous. The part where they're going to cut $1 trillion in spending, ridiculous. Okay? What will happen in that process will make the $5,000 DOGE dividend that you get look like $3. Okay? That's the other side of this. The other side of this equation that makes this such a fucking insanely stupid thing is that cutting $1 trillion would probably make prices explode. We'd look like Argentina. Okay? And if you think that, let's say, they did the unthinkable, they did the unimaginable, they successfully chopped $1 trillion from the government budgets. If you think you are going to see a penny of that money, you are also the dumbest person on the planet. Read the second reply. From Grok, I would rather kill myself than listen to a Grok summary of
Medical
DOGE
male
cuts.
circumcision.
Okay?
What is that? What does that mean? $2.3 million for strengthening independent voices in Cambodia.
$1 trillion is larger.
$14 million for improving public.
$1 trillion is larger than the yearly budget for the Department of Defense. Like everything, okay? DOD is like $850 million, okay? $1 trillion would mean that we've cut spending in the United States of America an larger amount. 850 billion, sorry. Did I say million? 850 billion. That'd be really funny if the US military only cost $1 billion a year. 850 billion. $1 trillion in US spending is more than the fucking DOD's yearly costs, okay?
$29 million to strengthen the political landscape in Bangladesh. $20 million for fiscal federalism and $19 million in addition to the $21 million for biodiversity conversion in Nepal. $1.5
Everyone
million
got 5,000. That's more than 1 trillion, if not 1.5 trillion. Yeah, it's so stupid.
$14 million for social cohesion in Mali. $2.5 million for inclusive democracies in South Africa. $47 million for improving learning outcomes in Asia. Asia's doing very well. We don't need to give them money. And in another program, $50 million plus another $50 million for condoms for Hamas. Do you know about that? $100 million for condoms. Condoms. Does everybody know what a condom is? For Hamas.
Wait, why is he still? They admitted that this was wrong. Why are they still saying
just some. I could read this list all day long. I just don't want to bore you. But these are just some, and not nearly as bad as others. And some are just, I just don't want to say them because they're too.
They just keep doubling. They keep giving more condoms to Hamas.
We're also finding tremendous abuse, waste, and fraud in Social Security. Social Security is what's happening.
They've doubled the number of condoms going to Hamas. How is this possible? After they openly admitted that it was a lie. Elon Musk literally said, sometimes we get things wrong. It's not a big deal. And he's still like, no, they're giving $1 trillion of condoms to Hamas.
109. Think of that. Now, over 100, there aren't a lot of people that make it. Hopefully, most of the people in this room will make it. But historically, you don't have thousands and thousands of people. But listen to this. 3.6 million people are on Social Security rolls from the age of 110 years old to 119. Do you think there are really that many? Those people are seriously old. But it gets worse. 3.47 million people are on Social Security from the age of 120 years old to 129 years old. 3.9 million people are on the age of Social Security from 130 years old to 139 years old. Now, the all-time record, I heard, is a woman who was 127 years old. That's the record. A woman from a certain country where they have actually people that live pretty long, actually. And she was 127 years old. That's pretty old, but we're topping her by millions of people. 3.5 million people from the age 140 to 149 years old. 1.3 million people are on Social Security from the age 150 to 159. And over 130,000 people are on Social Security over the age of 160 years old, okay? Including 1,039 people, think of it, over 1,000 people between the ages of 220 to 229. And one person between the age of 240 years old to 249. And the record topper, there is one person on Social Security who's 360 years old, which is approximately 110 years older than our country.
Like, dude, you guys rely on Social Security. Half of this fucking room is old as shit. Even at the Investment Institute, you have parents, you have grandparents. The fuck? They're clapping.
What's going on? So we'll find that out pretty easily because we have a lot of computer geniuses. I said to Elon, who are these people that are doing this, the DOGE people? I said, who are they? Where do they come from? He said, well, number one, they love our country. Number two, they're really genius at computers. So nobody's going to fool them. When they go in, they see some bureaucrat.
This could be from survivor benefits? Yes. Yes, it is. You want to know who also took Social Security survivor benefits and then spent the rest of his life shitting on that concept and trying to claw it back from everybody else? Famous Republican Paul Ryan. Paul Ryan's dad died due to, I believe, alcoholism. And Social Security actually made sure that Paul Ryan survived the process. Okay? And then, of course, he survived the process long enough so that he could fucking turn it. Well, Ayn Rand, too, obviously, that's a famous case. But, like, that doesn't... I'm talking about Social Security that extends beyond the person dying. Okay? Not just Social Security for people who are alive at that point.
Will be is, does the money come back to them? Because nobody can be stupid like that.
It's not only just survivor benefits. It's literally one check or one payment that went out before someone was proven dead with a death certificate.
So we'll figure that out pretty easily, I think, and quickly. But I've ended all of the so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion programs across the entire federal government and private sector, and notified every single government DEI officer that their jobs have been deleted. They're all deleted. And it's interesting, even these countries...
You just told me Social Security saved Paul Ryan's life, and you want me to be on board for keeping it around? Tough sell. Yes. I'm still on board with keeping it around.
I can't believe it. They just announced that they're stopping. And, you know, these companies are writing off like $220 million. How can you spend that much money no matter what you're doing? If you're teaching something, you're going to have an instructor. You're going to talk. You're going to give them a book. Please read the book. You know, that you find they spent $225 million.
Why? Why are you a centrist?
And we were going in the wrong way. And our military was really, although I tell you, you know, we defeated ISIS with our military in 3 weeks. General Raisin Kane he's some general. He's a real general, not a television general. And 3 weeks, ISIS. And I asked him.
Hey man, give Snappy a shout out for their contribution of gifted subs to the community.
We have the greatest
Snappy Apples
military in the world, but we don't have the greatest.
Thank you for the 10 gifted subs.
That's why Afghanistan was such a horrible situation and so embarrassing and so many other things. But when we want to, with proper leadership, there's nobody even close to us. We have the best equipment in the world. We make the best equipment in the world. but we have the best military. But, you know, we never fight to win. We fight to just keep it going forever. And when we fight to win, there's nobody that can even come close to us. But I was talking to General Dan Kane, we call him Raisin Kane, and I was told it would take about 4 years to defeat ISIS, and he did it in 3 weeks. I said to him, "What do you think, General? How long will it take?" "Sir, I think we should do it in less than 4 weeks. You're going to have time left over." And he did that. And we were told by the television generals it would take 4 years, so we did it. That's when I went to Iraq. I flew to Iraq, and late at night, the dark of night, all the windows
Oh, he loves
closed,
this story.
all the lights off in the plane. And
I feel
Air
like
Force
Batman or Halo. Thank you for the 7 gifted subs.
We flew in, and it was
I
pretty
feel like
amazing.
Batman or
We
Halo.
were landing, and there were no
That's
lights.
awesome.
No lights in the plane.
Awesome
"Sir, we have to
username.
turn off all lights." I said, "You mean we
Gone
spend
but not
$9
forgotten.
trillion, and we have to fly in and
Legendary
Air Force
Green
One with the
Beret
lights
who
off?"
exploded himself
And I went
outside
up
of the
to
Trump
pilot,
Tower.
said hello. And by the way, these guys are like central casting. These are the best looking human beings. Everybody is like perfect. The most handsome people, the best looking people you've ever seen with the flat tops and the whole thing. And I was a little concerned because the lights are off and everything's off. And even the lights in where he was were down, very dim, very, very dim, with all of the lights on the fancy dashboards of the plane, of Air Force One. We're getting a new Air Force One if they can ever finish the damn thing. We're getting 2 of them, actually. But we may have to go a different route because it's taken them a long time. We're going to get military that's going to start building. We're going to get people to start building properly again in our country because they don't build properly. This was Boeing. But we're up there and
Cheeseburger Eddie.
looking at these people.
Thank you for the 10
and again,
gifted.
I say, they look like Tom Cruise, but better. Stronger, tougher. And I like that.
It's really incredible how anyone believes anything he says at this point ever. Yes. A July 2024 report from Social Security's Inspector General states that from 2015 through 2022, the agency paid out almost 8.6 trillion in benefits, including 71.8 billion, or less than 1%, in improper payments. Most of the erroneous payments were overpayments to living people. Also, from what I understand, doesn't Social Security, like, there's obviously auditing occurring in this process all the time, and when they figure out that they've overpaid, they just take the money out of your bank account just as easily as they put it in to your bank account. Same with payments being made to people who die while they're on Social Security.
I said, Captain, Captain, we don't see any lights. Is everything? Yes, sir, everything's fine, sir. We'll be landing in 3 minutes. And then it goes like 600, 500. Captain, we okay? And then he goes 400, 300, 200. And I'm saying, man, there's nothing out there. And then he goes, boom, perfect landing right on this thing. There are no lights on the runway.
You want to know the irony? I think like gutting the IRS or gutting federal agencies is unironically going to cause more faulty payments and probably cause Social Security to go out to people who have died more frequently because you fired employees that are most likely auditing that process. So that's the other side of this bargain, which is that, a big part of government spending also goes to ensuring that there isn't additional payments being made, for example. There's all of this accounting that is necessary. But of course, it doesn't matter because clearly they don't care if there's a lot of faulty payments happening because they want to completely gut it anyway. They want to destroy it. Anyway, the numbers that Elon Musk presented weren't faulty payments anyway. It was actually just, it was a faulty interpretation of the data that exists. Social Security, they said they reclaimed over 200 million incorrect payments in the last few years. It's an incredibly low error rate, under 1%, because getting Social Security takes a massively high bar, and faking someone staying alive past their death for more than a month or two is really, really hard, and most people think it's easy because stupid. Yeah. Can we just debunk his claims then move on? His voice is infuriating. Well, I can't even debunk his claims in real time, considering that he brought forth that faulty Social Security notion probably 35 minutes ago. And in that process, he just kept lying and droning on and on about how he wanted to suck the dicks of the helicopter pilots or whatever, or the plane pilots that landed him in Iraq in the dead of the night with no lights on. And also added 8 other lies on top of the initial lie. It is virtually impossible to, in real time, fact check Donald Trump. It has always been impossible. There will never be there, because he just every sentence is established on a faulty premise, and then the additional sentences that accompany the first sentence also expand on that initial lie with new lies. Like the condoms for Gaza story is fantastic. It's a great example of this, okay? Donald Trump's administration, Caroline Leavitt, comes out and says, we're giving Hamas $50 million worth of condoms. Turns out it's not condoms, and turns out it's not Hamas. It's Mozambique, a part of the USAID initiative to send contraceptives and like medical sanitary products like to Mozambique, okay? Gaza in Mozambique, not Gaza, the Gaza Strip. And it's not $50 million, but it doesn't matter. What did Donald Trump say today? Earlier today, Donald Trump doubled the number, said it's not 50 million. Now he's saying it's 100 million, and also and still is claiming that it's going to Hamas. We are now giving $100 million of condoms to Hamas. Why do we do that, though? Seems like a waste. Good thing you don't work in the responsible agency that, you know, decides what kind of anti-HIV spreading initiatives that we're engaged in Africa for social welfare and for the healthcare of the entire fucking planet. Yeah, I know, dude. If you're the guy making these decisions, you're going to make a lot of stupid fucking decisions. I think personally, with a metric ton of evil shit that the American empire does, I feel like, you know, any sort of initiative that combats HIV spreading in Africa, in African nations, is a good thing. Okay, we are broke though. No, we're not. This is the richest country on the fucking planet, you dumbass. What do you mean we're broke? Shut the fuck up. What are you saying? We're broke. Oh my God, if America's broke, what are you? You're dead. You're a peasant.
They're playing golf, or they have other jobs, but they're not working, or they're certainly not working hard. You could never build a company or a country with that. So we have a very strong policy, and if they don't show up to work, they get fired. And we're trying to make our government smaller but much stronger. And we have tremendous bureaucracy, but it's happening. A lot of people are leaving, and in some cases leaving with pretty good offers. You know, you're paid 7 or 8 months and go out, find a job. But some of these people had jobs. They were actually working for us, but they also had other jobs. And those people, in theory, they have problems. I don't know if we're going to do anything about that. So we have other things to do, but they were working other jobs instead of working for us. So they were staying home working, but they were working other jobs, getting paid a lot of money, perhaps. We offered deferred resignation buyouts.
I shouldn't have yelled at that chatter and called him a dumbass. He probably thinks we're broke because his infrastructure is crumbling and he doesn't see a single dollar that of that GDP returned back to him in meaningful social benefits. So he probably thinks, understandably, like many Americans, oh, we must be really broke. It's probably because of, what are these guys at the top saying? The deficit. That must mean that is probably the reason why we're broke, because the potholes ain't getting fixed. My infrastructure is dog shit. Internet sometimes cuts out for no fucking reason. So that's the reason why you probably think you're broke. You're not. I mean, you individually are probably broke, but the American government certainly is not broke. Okay? And it's also kind of funny to assume that the American government is broke because of USAID sending condoms to Mozambique. Not just condoms, but like contraceptives in general, to combat HIV in one African nation. Like, that is really breaking the bank. Okay?
Great. In other words, we will rapidly grow our economy by dramatically shrinking the federal government, and we have to do it. I'm also taking fast action to end the radical left's nation-wrecking crusade against oil and natural gas. Over the past 4 years, the Biden administration cut the number of new oil leases and gas leases by 95%. They slowed new pipeline. I mean, look at Dakota Access, they wanted that one knocked out. The Keystone Pipeline, they wanted that one knocked out. They ended the Keystone. We got the Dakota Access done, but it wasn't easy after they tried to stop it. They slowed new oil and gas pipeline construction to virtually a halt. They shut down 38%
Yep, exactly.
of
Thanks for
active
correcting
oil
yourself.
and
The
gas
deficit
rigs
is why
in
I
the
think we're
United
broke.
States,
Okay.
but they love the
You know, I wasn't correcting myself. I was correcting myself on why you are wrong. Okay? I was apologizing not because you were right. I was apologizing because you're wrong, but you're probably wrong because people lie to you all the time. And that's crazy. That didn't imply, I didn't at any point imply that you were correct and I was wrong in my initial assessment. I was just wrong in how I handled it.
Meant for emergencies. It was meant for emergencies. It wasn't meant for getting a price of gasoline down so that you can win an election. Didn't work for winning the election. Actually, there's so many people that are driving that it's a very small number, just had a very small effect. But in the meantime, it takes it down. We'll fill it up fast, but it's at the lowest level. When we made the transition, it was at the lowest level in history ever recorded. It's the lowest level. Nobody's ever seen it that way. They put it all out because they thought they could keep gasoline prices down a little bit, just go past the election, and after that, they didn't care. And it didn't work because they didn't get elected. I got elected. But the price of gasoline still rose over 35%, and in some cases, at some periods, it was 100% and 125% during certain periods of time. Under the Trump administration, we have implemented a very different plan. You probably heard of it. It's called Drill, Baby, Drill. And we're doing it. The world runs on low-cost energy, and energy-producing nations like us have nothing to apologize for. We have more energy than any other nation in the world, and we're going to use it. And we're going to use it on AI plants. I was telling some of the people that came in that, they're very interested. Everybody's talking about AI. I hope you're right. I don't know. Who knows? But Elon, are they right? Are they right in going they are all in for AI? But the problem is, to do it, just in our country, you need twice the electricity just to open up and be the top of AI. You need twice the electricity that we have right now in the entire country. If you take all of the electricity, you need more than twice. You need double what we have right now just to fuel this new industry that's growing. I was amazed when I heard that number. And they all said, how can we do this? Because, in China and various other places, you can probably get it with the shake of a hand. But in our country, you can't. But now you can, because I'm declaring a national emergency in order to get fast approvals. And we're going to have, if you build a plant, you're able to build an electric generating facility right next to your plant. So you'll be making your own. You won't have to count on utilities. You won't have to count on an old grid that could fail, could get hit by something, bad things or good things. But you're not going to have to worry about grids. You'll build your plant, and you'll build essentially you'll become a utility in a way. You'll build your own electricity. If you want to build extra and put it out and get paid for that, you're going to be able to do that. You could put it back into the grid, but you're going to be able to build with your plant a generating facility. And we're going to get you Lee Zeldin, head of the environmental group, various groups.
What?
And we've got them unified now, but we're going to get you very fast approval.
He wants factories to build their own energy grids. Is that what he's saying? Like we're going to let you do your own energy. We're going to if you're a private corporation, you can just like build your own energy grid. Is that what he's saying? Entirely on fossil fuels for the AI data centers. Oh, great. Love that.
Wasteful deficit spending. and I withdrew the United States from the unfair one-sided Paris Climate Accord, and I ended Joe Biden's insane electric vehicle mandate because it was just insane. I repealed the last, and by the way, if you want to buy an electric car, it's great. If you want to buy a gasoline-driven car or a hybrid, it's great. Whatever the thing happens to be. I heard hydrogen's hot. The problem is when it's not, you're in deep trouble, because when that sucker blows up, they don't find the body. So that's one that I said, you know what, let's take a pass on that one. They said it's good, but when it's bad, it's really bad. You find the bodies on trees, on the side of a tree. I said, I think we'll pass on that one, right? We're not going to want that one. But you never know. Maybe someday it'll be good, but it doesn't sound like it's off to a good start. I repealed the last administration's very destructive natural gas export ban. And last week we approved our first new liquefied natural gas export license, and we have literally hundreds of people that want to export. I recently met with the Japanese Prime Minister, Shiba, to discuss large increases in American oil and gas exports. They want it so badly. They said we went to the Biden administration.
He's going to be dead soon. He don't care about our fucking planet. Bro, rich people, no matter what age they are, don't care about the planet. Okay? It's just like, it doesn't matter. They think that they can, with their wealth, they think they can avoid some of the worst impacts.
Very few people, like very few countries have, like really actually no country has. I also met with Prime Minister Modi of India, who wants to greatly expand India's purchase of American energy. And my administration has also launched the most aggressive deregulation program of any nation in history. Under my executive order, for every one new regulation added, 10 old regulations have to be eliminated. And you know, in our first term, which was actually an incredible success, we had the greatest economy in history until COVID, and even after that, we did great. The stock market was higher. If you think of it, it was higher after the fact. After we went through that whole thing, it was higher than it was just prior to COVID coming in, which is a pretty amazing thing. But we did a great job on that, but it was a terrible thing for the world. The whole world suffered. It suffered terribly, including China, including other countries. It was a terrible period of time. But despite that, we did well. But we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. And I think this time we're going to do even better. We were artificially hurt by COVID. We had to focus on that instead of focusing on, but just prior to COVID coming in, there's never been anything like what we did, what we achieved. And even after, we did very well, and especially considering what all of us had to do with COVID. Some nations were hit so badly, it's just unbelievable what happened to them. As part of our effort, I've signed executive orders to keep the United States at the forefront of artificial intelligence and to end Joe Biden's war on Bitcoin and crypto. We ended that war totally. That war is over. They were very hostile toward them until the very end, just because there's so many people on Bitcoin and crypto that just before the end, the SEC came out and they were being very nice. I was so nice to people because so many people were being indicted for no reason whatsoever. Very political group of people. That's all they did was they liked indicting people, but they were being indicted, and many of those indictments were dropped just before the election because they said, wait a minute, there's 100 million, 125 million people using this, and they didn't want to have, you know, all these people being voted against. But by the time they did that, it was too late. We had that vote entirely, I think. I think anybody was smart that believed in that, and there were a lot of people believing it. Anybody that was smart voted for Trump. And they pulled the indictments, and I see people that were indicted. I said, I saved your life. I saved your life. Because if they thought that, they actually thought that I was doing it, they said, why is Trump doing it? Is he doing it for political reasons? I don't do anything for political reasons. I do what's right. I want to be in the forefront of every industry. So I'll be working with the Republican Congress to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And that includes, obviously, we have to extend the Trump tax cuts, which were, until now, the largest. We're going to dramatically cut taxes for families and for workers and for companies, including no tax on tips and hopefully no tax on Social Security and no tax on overtime. And that overtime one is a sleeper because I think a lot of people are going to be spurred on to do a lot of extra work. When they hear that, it's a lot of companies really like it, and a lot of people really like it. The new Trump tax cuts will also include 100% expensing for new factory construction in the United States and anything
Now he's
else that
finally
you're
getting to
gonna
what he's
buy
doing.
with capital. If you buy something that is going to be good for our country, we're going to let you expense it, 1 year expense. And I did that the first time, and everybody was saying, can you go back to that? Now you still get, I guess, 40% or whatever, but it pares down. But we're going to bring that right up to the top level. I think that had a lot to do with the success that I had during my first term. And we'll substantially cut taxes for all domestic producers of oil and gas and just about everything else that they produce. In my first term, I brought the business tax down from around 40% to 21%,
Let's go.
which
More
everybody
tax
said was an
cuts.
impossible thing to do. I cut it from 40. It actually was state and city was much higher than 40, but I got it down 21%, and now I'm bringing it down to a goal of 15%, but only if you make your product in America. In other words, you're going to be at 21%, but if you make your product in America, you're going to go from 21 to 15. If you don't, you're going to pay 21%, which is still lower than anything. So
Wait, why are you cutting taxes for people that are producing overseas then? If your entire purpose, if you want to tax companies less and incentivize them positively, then you can do that in the opposite direction. Tax companies more, bring it back to the pre-existing corporate tax rate or even go higher than that if they're producing overseas, and then keep the current tax rate. Or obviously, in the perfect world, we would increase the current tax rate as well for the corporations because he decreased it initially. Why wouldn't he do that? Why is he offering a tax cut to corporations and also an additional tax to the corporations that are manufacturing in the U.S.? It almost is like Trump's not smart. No, dude, it's because he doesn't give a shit about anything. He just simply wants to cut taxes for his buddies, okay?
If they don't charge us, we don't charge them. It's pretty simple. The Republican Party is...
Honest question, if everyone gets a tax cut, why should be sad about it? Great question, okay? I'm not going to dunk on you. I'm not going to make fun of you. Because taxes, if you are, not a part of the capital owning class, especially at the tippy top of the capital owning class, okay, taxes end up funding a lot of the things that you take advantage of, right? Taxes obviously fund the roads, the electricity grid, infrastructure improvements that are definitely necessary, okay? Public education, things like that. And the poorer you are, the more distance you have towards being a, 10 millionaire, 100 millionaire, the more you rely on those things. Okay? So when we do broad tax cuts for every single person, those initiatives that you rely on a lot more than the wealthy rely on become worse and worse in a state of dire disrepair. And then, when it's in a state of dire disrepair, then private corporations come in and say, oh, we'll fix it. Just give it to us. This is broken. And then you say, okay, well, anything is better than the current situation. It's clear that the government hasn't really funded these initiatives. It's clear that the government is incapable of fixing basic things. And then private enterprise comes in and they paywall these things that you were taking advantage of with your taxes. So on the one hand, while you're maybe getting $5 back on your monthly taxable income, the benefits for that extra $5 was returning to your pocket in a competent government tenfold, 20-fold, 30-fold. It's clear you're a New Jersey brain cuck. Shut up, let the big dog speak. Nah, my electricity bill pays for that, Jackie. Taxes get sent abroad and spent on bullshit. Who you capping, you fuck? And no, I didn't vote for him, so go ahead. What? Why are you pre-firing arguments? Taxes get sent abroad and spent on bullshit. Who you capping, you fuck? although there are a lot of our taxes do get spent on ridiculous initiatives or death and destruction overseas, ultimately there's still a big chunk of it that goes back to, or in theory is supposed to go back to, fixing your fucking potholes. Okay? I don't think this country is going to survive the second Trump term.
The satellite pictures
see.
of the field, it's a level field, and it looks like a modern-day version of Gettysburg, and you know what that means. It is just carnage. It's horrible. And, you know, it's not American soldiers. It's not even soldiers from the Middle East in the case of Ukraine, Russia, but it's...
Yeah, it's also really funny because, like, in terms of foreign investment or money going overseas, okay, the Trump administration has already talked about increasing military spending by $100 billion. Okay, so they're not cutting the DOD expenses.
One case. But think of it, a modestly successful comedian, President Zelensky, talked the United States of America into spending $350 billion to go into a war that basically couldn't be won, that never had to start and never would have started if I was president, not even a chance. And it didn't start for 4 years.
Oh, here we go.
Never would have started. But
Here
a war
we go.
that he, without the U.S. and Trump, will never be able to settle. They'll never settle that war without our involvement. That's why they did such a great job this weekend. That's why Saudi Arabia did such a great job this weekend in hosting. The United States has spent $200 billion more than Europe, and Europe's money is guaranteed. They get their money back. It's a form of a loan. Nobody knows that. I know that. I said, why isn't somebody saying, you know, we do it the same way? And we spent much more money. We have to equalize. But while the United States gets nothing back, so they get their money back. It's a loan. We just give our money. And we had a deal based on rare earth and things, but they broke that deal. But they broke it 2 days ago. We had a deal because I said, we're spending $350 billion, and Europe gets their money back in the form of a loan, and we don't. We're just giving the money hand over fist. That's the Biden administration for you. But they're no longer dealing with the same United States as they were dealing with a few months ago. Why didn't crooked Joe Biden demand equalization, and that this war is far more important to Europe than it is to us, and that there's a very big, beautiful ocean, a separation? This is, you know, we're helping Europe. We're trying to help Europe. On top of this, Zelensky admits that half of the money that we sent them is missing. They don't know where the money is. He said, well, we don't know where half of it is. That's great, wonderful. He refuses to have elections. It's low in the real Ukrainian polls. I mean, how can you be high with every city is being demolished? It's hard to be high. Somebody said, oh, no, his polls are good. Give me a break. Every city is being demolished. They look like a demolition site, every single one of them. And the only thing he was really good at was playing Joe Biden like a fiddle. He played him like a fiddle. That's an expression we use, Yasser, to say that he's pretty easy, pretty easy. A dictator without elections. Zelensky better move fast or he's not going to have a country left. Got to move fast, because that war is going in the wrong direction. In the meantime, we're successfully negotiating an end to the war with Russia, something I'll admit that only Trump is going to be able to do in the Trump administration. We're going to be able to do it. I think Putin even admitted that. Biden never tried. Europe has failed to bring peace, and Zelensky probably maybe he wants to keep the gravy train.
Listen, cutting a deal or getting to the ceasefire negotiations under the Biden leadership was an opportunity that the Biden leadership did not actually take. Okay? They didn't do it with Israel. They left it up to Donald Trump. They didn't do it with Russia, and they left it up to Donald Trump. So just remember that anytime people talk about like where we're at in terms of American foreign policy.
I love Ukraine, but Zelensky has done a terrible job. His country is shattered, and millions of people have unnecessarily died. And you can't bring a war to an end if you don't talk to both sides. You got to talk. They haven't been talking for 3 years. So we hope to see a ceasefire soon and to reestablish stability in Europe and the Middle East. Thank you very much.
Does Chad have anything
as
else
I've
to
said
say besides
before, it's
calling
my
him
hope
names? Why are conservatives like this after so much death and destruction, after literally saying like Kamala Harris is a prostitute and whatever? They turn around and are like, "Oh, you're calling my big beautiful boy names. I'm so sad." Like, don't do that. If you're a Trump supporter, don't do that. Like, have some decency, please. Okay.
of peace,
Don't behave like a little fucking snowflake.
creation,
you little
and
bitch.
expansion the world has ever seen. We're on our way. I mean, everyone's talking about us. 3 weeks. We're in there for a couple of days more than.
You're not even like, he doesn't even know who you are, and he's not going to do anything that's good for you in any way, shape, or form. So why the fuck are you sad? Which video Don Jr. quote tweeted? Zelensky should really just go win the war without our endless dollars. Let's see how that works out. What? This isn't even him. This is like a very clearly an AI video. What? Even if it was him, what difference does that make? But it's not even. Oh
first,
God.
but in
We're
the
getting
end, we want America first.
We're
and
getting progressively dumber and dumber.
beautiful,
Oh my
which is going to
God.
be pretty soon. We want to help other countries, and you want to help other countries. But you know, I tell your leaders, and some of the leaders are in this room right now, you got to put your country first. Whether it's Saudi Arabia, whether it's something else, you got to put your country first. But we're going to have plenty left over to help others also. As long as you invest in America, build in America, and hire in America, that means that I'm fighting for you. I am fighting very hard for you. Together, we're going to make the United States of America bigger, better, bolder, richer, and greater than ever before. It's going to be stronger than ever before. We're going to be a peacemaker and a peacekeeper. We're going to stop people from these stupid, never-ending wars. We're not going to partake in them ourselves, but we'll be stronger and more powerful than anybody by far. And if it ever came to war, there is nobody that will be able to come close to us. But we don't think that's going to ever happen. So I want to thank you all very much. It's a great honor to be here. And I think somebody said they're going to ask questions. And I didn't say, gee, what are the questions like Biden does? I say, just ask, it doesn't matter. You ask a question and I give an answer. So I think, Richard, you're going to come up and you're going to give me some questions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President. Please, a round of applause for the President of the United States of America. Thank you. Mr. President, thank you for accepting to take a few questions. 20 years ago, I don't know if you will remember, we were under the same roof in Orlando and you were delivering an amazing speech in front of 3,000 sales reps, giving them the best advice to be successful.
To be fair, American money must be spent on America's competent army and its veterans, according to Asman Thought. Do you believe that Trump's move towards redirecting neoliberal directives / market creating revenue outflows is a sign of America's shift towards a post-capitalist Asmanist order? Yes. Considering that Asmongold just simply is, agreeing with the overwhelming majority of things that Donald Trump says, Asmanist thought is just Trumpist thought. Okay? The coping goes hard in this chat, Lamau. I will reiterate the same position. No, don't ban that guy. I will reiterate the same position that I have maintained over and over again. Okay? This chat cares more about your material conditions and your well-being than you do about your own damn self. Okay? Understand this. When people complain about Donald Trump, I know that you think it's from a partisan perspective, especially in a chat like this one. Right? You're like conditioned to thinking this is like a pro-Kamala-crat, pro-Democrat, like unconditionally love Democratic Party style chat. It's not. I rip into the Democratic Party when they were in power far more than I did to the Republicans because they were conceding to the Republicans. So it almost felt like I was shitting on the Republicans anyway. Okay? Make no mistake. The reasons as to why members of this community, and myself included, shit on Donald Trump is because the initiatives that he's taking is going to make your lives worse. Maybe one day you will understand that reality, or maybe you will keep getting angrier and angrier not recognizing why your conditions are worsening, even though your great white savior is now in charge and he, banned transgenderism or whatever you think is pog and based. Okay? That's it. No matter how much people make it seem as though the anger and resentment towards Donald Trump is just simply on partisan boundaries or simply because they just don't like it. They hate America. Liberals hate America. Leftists hate America. And they hate that, liberals hate America and they hate that Donald Trump is making America great. The real reasons as to why I am angry at Donald Trump is because he is stealing your money, okay? You already don't make enough of it. He's allowing all of these dipshits in this room to steal more of your money. That's it, okay? Things are just going to get progressively worse and worse. Things that you rely on that the federal government actually gives you, they are going to take away slowly but surely. You are a streamer, brother. That's okay. Yes, I am a streamer.
Even be president, and I got the Olympics, because if I didn't, when I spoke with the people, the organizing committee and the people in different parts of the world, they asked me to do it because the president wouldn't do it. I was president-elect, and I gave them a talk. I couldn't get them off the phone. They were starving for love. And the bottom line, they gave us the Olympics. And I said, isn't it sad I won't be president? Then we had the election result, and now I'm president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So I'm very happy about that, Johnny. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'll be there. I promise I'll be there.
And by the way, Mr. President, backstage you have a gift from Johnny. He gave us the first ball with your name, which will be played for the World Cup in America.
It's going to be great. Thank you, Johnny, very much.
I doubt that any day you will take a sabbatical year, but if you could take a sabbatical year, Mr. President, what unconventional thing would you do?
What was the word?
Sabbatical. You don't work for 1 year.
I thought you said Sabbath. It's a big difference. It's almost the opposite when you think about it, right?
What?
I think what I do is, look, what I'm doing now.
Why would that be the opposite?
It's the most exciting job in the world. It's a hard job, not an easy job. It's a nasty job. It could be a lot easier with, I think that the news media has to straighten themselves out because people are getting it. They're losing tremendous popularity and they've lost their prestige and they've lost their credibility. And I think it's a very important thing, the news media, but I think they have to straighten themselves out because the people are going around them now. They have so many different things with like Elon with X, which was a big thing, and we have Truth, which has been fantastic, and we have so many other things that you don't really need traditional. But I will tell you that there is just nothing I could do to enjoy my life, whether it's that or anything else that you'd ask, because this is the ultimate. I mean, I had to make a big decision, and it was a very risky decision, because if I would have lost, my life would have been a much different life. It would have been a very nasty life. They were going after me at levels that nobody's ever seen before.
This is
not
him
Andrew
being honest.
Jackson, not Abraham Lincoln. The historians say that the president that was treated the worst by far by the media and overall.
This is him being actually honest, where he's talking about why he actually ran again.
They were treated really rough, and Abraham Lincoln was second, but he had a civil war. You can understand that. But nobody was treated like me. Nobody.
Abraham Lincoln was shot.
I will tell you.
The fuck are you talking
learn a lot
about?
about yourself. But there's nothing
And
I'd
not
rather
like
do. I had to make
in
a
the ear.
decision.
You know what I mean? He wasn't grazed in the ear. He was just
It
shot
would've been very,
to the back of the
it was
dome.
dangerous, actually, very dangerous in so many different ways. And I decided to do it. And I said, I have to win, because if I don't win, I spoke to a friend of mine the other night. He said, if you lost, it would have been it was actually Sean Hannity just before we did the interview last night. He said, boy, if you would have lost, you would have had a tough life. You would have had a very tough life. So there was a certain amount of courage involved in this decision to run. And it's a great honor to win by this much, to win all 7 swing states, the popular vote. Popular vote doesn't get won that much by Republicans for whatever reason. I think that's changing because, again, we're the party of common sense, and they're the party of some real bad things. And I think they'll change. I think they have to change. it would be wonderful. I'm going to be having lunch with some of the Democrats next week, and it would be wonderful if we could work together. I think working together would be great. But they have to change. You can't get elected on the programs that they want, and that's really what America wants to see. So there's nothing I'd rather do than what I'm doing right now.
When we started this conference, Mr. President, when we started this conference, Yasser and I, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince told us, I want that to be the place where people will come to understand where to invest in terms of geographies and sector. So what is the best investment you have made in your personal growth, Mr. President?
Well, I was involved in real estate from, most of my life, and was, guys like Witkoff will tell you I was really good at it, and I was successful at it, very successful at it. I've been involved in things prior to being president, but during the last 4 years, I followed sort of the trends, and I've made a lot of money with following some of these trends. And, it's, again, it's something that you do. I really believe that some people have
Luckily, they're calling it meme coin.
I make money.
They're calling it a rug pull. I did it. I love pulling the rug.
On television, I wrote books, and they were all bestsellers. Virtually every book was a big bestseller, some really big bestsellers. And so I don't know, it's whatever I do, I just want to make it successful. It's very important to me. There are many ways to make money. You can be in many different fields. And a lot of them is being in the right country. If you're in a certain country, our country is actually getting very bad, a very dangerous place, actually. Bad things were happening. But if you're in a certain country, you have a chance to do well. And no matter how good you are, if you were born into the wrong country, you're not going to make money. Now, you can do other things. You can attain power, I guess. Maybe it's the wrong kind of power, but it's power. But being in the right country, where you have the right incentives and, entrepreneurship, et cetera, and America has always been sort of at the top, or one of the top, but always pretty much at the top. But it was losing that position, and I think losing it rapidly. This last administration, look, I don't want to be, I wish I could say, I wouldn't have run. If I thought Biden was doing a good job, if I thought they were, I wouldn't have run.
You literally earlier said you ran because if you didn't run and you didn't win, you would have been in jail.
My ear.
That was 35 seconds ago.
Every once in a while, but it was dangerous in a lot of different ways. But he was so bad that I had no choice but to do it. If I thought he was doing a great job, I wouldn't have run, and I would be very happy. I actually wanted him to do a good job. I was saying, do this, do that. I'm telling them, do things. They should have done what I said. And but I would have been very happy not to have run, and frankly, to have seen somebody do a good job. But our country was going to hell, and I really sort of had to run.
If you were a historical ruler, would you prefer to rule during war or peace?
Well, I want to be, again, a peacemaker, and I want to keep us out of war. But sometimes to do that, you have to have a very strong country. You have to have a very strong military. And as I said, we have a much stronger military than anyone would know. We have the best equipment. And I bought a lot of it. I rebuilt our military in the first 4 years. I rebuilt it. We gave a lot of it away to Afghanistan, to the Taliban. Stupidly, but that's a very small amount relative. It was billions and billions, but it's still a very small amount relatively to what we built. But I largely rebuilt our military. Now I'm going to have to do it again because so much has been given away, so much has been treated so badly. But to keep peace, you really have to. I have a thing: strength through, and I mean it. You really have it. You have strength, and you need the strength, but it's really peace through strength, because without the strength, it's going to be very hard to have peace, because you're going to be taken over, bad things are going to happen. So you really want to have peace through strength, and that's where I've done it. Having strength, having power in that sense to protect yourself and your people is a very important thing. Hopefully you don't have to use that power. I would tell you, I was dealing with President Putin very successfully on denuclearization. We were talking about it very seriously. And then COVID came and lots of things came, and we had also talked to China about it. Now, Russia and us have the biggest nuclear by far. China is not close, but they will be close. In 3 or 4 years or 5 years, they'll be
What does he
equal.
know?
But we were going to talk to China, and I spoke to President Xi about it very successfully. I think we were going to denuclearize it. We had to get the smaller nuclear powers, of which there are 4, 3 maybe, but 4 probably, to do something. We would have been able to do that. But I was having very strong talks with President Putin about denuclearization. And, you know, if you're president, you get presentations about what we're building, what we're having, the power of weapons, the power of many things besides weapons per se. What I saw, the power of nuclear weapons, and we can never let that happen. If that happens, the ball game will be, the world will be destroyed. The power is so enormous. You look at Hiroshima, you look at Nagasaki.
It would be pretty sick if they denuclearized, right? Is the question from the chat. Yeah, it would also be pretty sick if there was nationalized healthcare in this country. Just because something is pretty sick or that Trump is saying that he's going to do something doesn't mean that he's actually capable of doing said thing or is even remotely interested in following through on that.
But that happened. The power of weaponry today is so enormous that the world would disintegrate, so we can't let it happen.
Mr. President, if you had to describe United States of America in just 3 words, what would they be?
In 3 words?
3 words.
Love, respect, and strength. That's a tough question. That might be my best answer, Yasser. That reminds me of high school, that one, but that may have been the toughest question, actually. Do you think Joe Biden could have done that? I don't think.
Bro, these questions are so insane. They're asking him like baby questions, like what historical figure do you mostly resemble?
Cultural habit in the US business that the rest of the world could learn from. What is the best practice that
Well, I think we love our
country?
families, but I think a lot of the world loves their families. You know, I was speaking to the head of Mexico because I complain constantly about people pouring in now.
Americans famously love their families, dude, in comparison to other countries, especially.
But I was speaking to the president of Mexico, a very wonderful woman, actually, and
Ooh, she likes
I
Claudia.
said, we were talking about drugs. You can't let people come through your country and come into the country. You know, I was not that nice, but they understood what I was saying. And she said something that really got me. She said, I said, you're not a big drug-taking nation? And she said, no, we are not a consumer. And I said, a consumer, what an interesting word. We're not a consumer nation. We're not a consumer of drugs. I said, what an interesting, and why is that? She said, well, we have very strong family values. I said, but we do too. We do too. We have very strong. Our families are devastated by what's happening with fentanyl, and China will not be doing. We're going to make a deal with China. They were not letting that happen anymore. And I had a deal, by the way, before I left. I had a deal with President Xi where they were going to give the maximum penalty to anybody making fentanyl and sending it into the United States. And their maximum penalty is the death penalty, and it would have stopped. But when the election turned out to be a rigged election, but that's okay. When an election turned out to be, it was an election that shouldn't have happened. All the things that happened. I'll give you an example. We wouldn't have had October 7th, Israel attack. We wouldn't have had Ukraine and Russia fighting. We wouldn't have had inflation. We wouldn't have had all of these things that, happened. But in speaking with her, she said about family values, I said, well, you're not really saying anything there because we have great families too. We have great family values. She said, plus we advertise a lot. I said, ooh, you mean you advertise about how bad drugs are? Yes, we do. We spend a lot of money on advertising. And I said, unbelievable. That was such a great conversation because we're going to spend hundreds of millions of dollars advertising how bad drugs are so that kids don't use them, that they chew up your brain, they destroy your teeth, your skin, your everything.
Yeah, that really worked with the DARE program. Historically successful.
He calls and I never learn anything from anybody. I know everything, and
Remember
I never
how
learn anything
historically
from anybody.
successful
And I
DARE
spoke to
was.
this woman. As soon as she said it, she didn't have to say exactly what. I said, exactly. What a great idea. And I think we're going to have, and I saw pieces of it. We're going to go in with $100 million and then another $100 million initially. But I saw some of the ads, and they are really violent. I said, you have to make them strong. Your skin practically comes off after a period of time. You lose your hearing. You lose your teeth. It is terrible. And we show this happening to people. And I think we're going to, we did very well with, we had blue ribbon committees headed up by the First Lady of the United States and a lot of other people that, they have no idea the viciousness of these cartels and these people. And they're smarts. I mean, they're very smart, tough people, making a fortune, by the way, an absolute fortune. But we got it down 18%, which was a record. But 18% is not great when you think about it. I think we could get it down 50 or 55 or maybe even 60% with advertising. So she really gave me something. I was going to call her and tell her that she did, but now I don't have to call her because she's going to be seeing this right now. So to the President of Mexico, thank you very much. I appreciate it. But we're going to do a great advertising campaign saying how bad it is, how drugs are so bad for you.
Wow.
My last question, Mr. President.
Brilliant,
you
sir.
have mentioned briefly in your speech about the legacy.
The question was, what can other businessmen learn from American business?
That I came into a country that was great, but is in trouble. And I made America great
What was your
again,
legacy? What would you like your
and I got
legacy
it
to
out
be?
of trouble.
Is the
And
question.
people respect America now. And we were a country of peace, and we brought peace to the rest of the world.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. President.
Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you.
Yeah, he'd be like, Mr. President, what is your favorite snack? And then it's like a 35-minute ramble sesh about how, he's going to stop the flow of drugs into the United States of America by telling the youth that drugs are bad.